If we imagine a different scenario for the ending of Tangled, where Rapunzel discovers the full truth about her origin and Flynn Rider is gravely wounded but he doesn't cut her hair, absolutely everything would change. In the original ending, Flynn's decision is the true breaking point of the story. He cuts Rapunzel's magical hair to free her from Mother Godhell, even knowing that doing so eliminates any chance of being healed. He basically accepts his own death so she can be free. Only later, when everything already seems lost, Rapunzel's tears, still carrying the last trace of magic, bring him back. It's a sacrifice that finally ends the cycle of control and manipulation. Now imagine if he hadn't done that. First possibility. Rapunzel doesn't manage to save him in time. The wound Flynn suffered was deep. Trapped in that isolated tower with no outside help, his chances of survival would be minimal. The hair remained intact and under Gothel's control, she would continue to hold absolute power over the situation. Flynn could die right there, with nothing stopping the villain's dominance. Rapunzel, newly aware of her true identity, would lose the man she had just realized she loved. She wouldn't even get the chance to experience that reunion with her parents. Her freedom would be overshadowed by loss. And Mother Godhell, realizing the risk of keeping the tower relatively close to the kingdom, would not make the same mistake twice. Kingdom of Corona is vast. There's no reason to believe Godhell would stay in a region where the floating lanterns were still visible. She would flee to an even more distant territory, isolated enough to erase any trace of hope. Rapunzel might still see the lights in the sky, fully understanding what they mean, but with no way to reach them. That would make everything even more cruel. Before, Rapunzel lived in a prison disguised as care. She could paint, read, write, explore every corner of the tower. Godhell kept her busy so that space would feel like her world. It was emotional manipulation, not brute force. But after the revelation, that dynamic would completely change. Rapunzel would no longer be a naive child believing the world outside was too dangerous. She would be a young adult, fully aware, emotionally shaken, and with a real reason to resist. Godhell wouldn't need to pretend affection anymore. Control would shift from psychological to direct. The tower would stop feeling like a refuge and become an explicit prison. Second possibility. Rapunzel manages to heal Flynn before he dies, but he still doesn't cut the hair. He would survive, but he'd be extremely weakened. That wasn't a minor injury. Even alive, he wouldn't immediately have the strength to confront Godhell or chase after her. By the time he could stand, she would already be far away with Rapunzel. The advantage would be entirely hers. Meanwhile, the king and queen would still have no answers. Not knowing whether their daughter was alive or dead, they would continue the annual lantern ritual, sending them into the sky as a symbol of hope. And depending on where Godhell took Rapunzel, she might see those lights in the distance. Now fully aware of what they represent, yet unable to reach them, that awareness would change everything. She would know who she is. She would know she has a family. She would know she lost or left behind the man she loves. And she would still remain trapped. Unlike the girl who spent years accepting explanations, this new Rapunzel would try to escape. More than once, she already proved she can leave the tower. She already proved she can face the world. And most importantly, she has already experienced what freedom feels like. Because of that, every escape attempt would make the environment harsher. Godhell would no longer have room for soft manipulation. Only rigid control would remain. Rapunzel wouldn't be kept there by lies anymore, but by force. Without cutting the hair, there is no definitive break. Flynn Rider's act is what shatters Mother Gothel's entire power structure. Without that moment, the cycle continues. And what ends entangled with reunion, restoration, and freedom would, in this alternate scenario, turn into separation, uncertainty, and prolonged captivity. If we take this alternate version of Tangled to its furthest consequences, the situation becomes even darker, especially when we think about Pascal. Pascal isn't just comic relief. He's Rapunzel's only constant connection to genuine loyalty inside that tower. He was the one who encouraged her to leave, the one who reacted to Mother Gothel's lies, the one who almost functioned as the critical conscience Rapunzel hadn't fully developed yet. In a context where Rapunzel knows the truth and actively resists, Pascal would become a direct problem for Godhell. It's very likely Godhell would see him as a threat. He would help with escape attempts, sabotage plans, create distractions, hide objects, anything to give Rapunzel an advantage. And the more he interfered, the more Godhell would lose patience. In this scenario, Pascal would only survive if he constantly managed to hide, living living in the shadows of the tower itself. Otherwise, Gothel could use him as an example, not just out of anger but as a form of psychological control. Taking away Rapunzel's only loyal companion would be a cruel way to reinforce isolation, and isolation is the most powerful tool for anyone who wants to keep someone trapped. No Flynn rider, no freedom, possibly no Pascal. Rapunzel would be completely alone, and that drastically changes how long she could emotionally endure. In the original film, even before discovering the truth, Rapunzel had stimulation, art, music, curiosity, dreams. Gothel maintained that controlled freedom because she needed Rapunzel to feel relatively comfortable. A satisfied prisoner questions less. But after the revelation, that strategy would stop working. Rapunzel would know everything was a lie. She would understand she had been kidnapped. Knowing that there is a family out there, an entire kingdom searching for you and still remaining trapped, that's an enormous psychological weight. And there's another crucial detail. Gothel doesn't directly depend on Rapunzel singing to use the flower's power. She knows the incantation herself. If Rapunzel tried to hurt herself, Gothel could immediately heal her. The power wouldn't be in the princess's hands, but fully under the villain's control. In other words, even a desperate attempt to escape her own pain could be undone. On top of that, considering Gothel has already lived for over 300 years thanks to the magic, nothing would stop this cycle from continuing for decades. Rapunzel, with the power still active, would likely have an extended lifespan as well. That opens the door to prolonged captivity, possibly indefinite. And the consequences wouldn't stop there. The ending of Tangled changes, the entire expanded universe collapses with it. The series Rapunzel's Tangled adventure takes place directly after the events of the film. Rapunzel's identity reconstruction, her adjustment to the kingdom, her internal conflicts, her growth, all of that depends on that happy ending. Without the cutting of the hair, that timeline simply doesn't happen. In the series, we learn that Gothel had a daughter, Cassandra. She was abandoned by her own mother, so Gothel could raise Rapunzel instead. In the original timeline, Cassandra is adopted by the captain of the guard and grows up in the castle, eventually becoming Rapunzel's lady-in-waiting and best friend. Without Rapunzel's freedom, that meeting never happens. Cassandra would lose her most important friendship. Rapunzel would never experience a real friendship outside the tower. The entire arc of rivalry, resentment, and eventual reconciliation that defines Cassandra's journey would simply cease to exist. And there's more. Remember the tavern scene in I've Got a Dream? Those men, seen as rough and even threatening by society, with dreams that seemed impossible. The pianist, the baker, the mime? In the movie, it almost feels like a joke. But in the series, we see that many of them actually achieve their dreams. Pianist even goes on tour. Others find recognition and opportunity. That only happens because Rapunzel fulfills her own dream first. When she discovers she's the princess of Corona, she gains influence, and she chooses to use it to help each of them achieve what they once thought was unreachable. It's no coincidence they're all present in the end, celebrating. Without Gothel's fall and Rapunzel's liberation, those men would remain stuck in social marginalization. They would continue being viewed as threats, treated with hostility, even by the kingdom's own soldiers. Their dreams would remain nothing more than lyrics inside a tavern. See how cutting the hair isn't just a romantic gesture, it's the turning point that sustains the entire universe of Tangled. Without it, there's no family reunion, no friendships formed, no redemption, no dreams fulfilled, just isolation, prolonged control, and a story that never escapes the tower. And if we expand this scenario further and bring in the mythology of the sun drop and the moon drop, the impact becomes even bigger, because now we're not just talking about Rapunzel and Flynn Rider's fate, but the balance of the entire world. In Tangled, we learn about the sun drop, a celestial energy that fell over the kingdom of Corona and created the magical golden flower capable of healing and restoring life. That flower saved the queen during pregnancy and transferred its power to Rapunzel. But Rapunzel's Tangled adventure reveals that there wasn't only the sun drop. At the same time, the moon drop also fell. Unlike the golden flower, it didn't create life, created the moonstone, also known as the opal, a force of pure destruction. While the sun's energy heals, the moon's energy destroys. It's a direct contrast, creation versus annihilation. The sun drop fell in Corona. The moon drop struck a distant and shadowed kingdom, later known as the Dark Kingdom. the place where Flynn Rider was born. Yes, the former thief has a far more complex origin than it first appeared. His ancestors had a clear mission: protect the world from the power of the opal. For centuries, the kings and queens of that kingdom dedicated their lives to keeping the Moonstone isolated, preventing anyone from using its devastating power. One of those kings was King Edmund, Flynn's father. About 25 years before the events of Tangled, the Moonstone began to expand. It generated black formations across the ground, stone spikes that grew and spread over time. It was as if destruction itself were alive. Edmund, tired of a legacy built solely on guarding death, made a misguided decision. He tried to destroy the Moonstone, but the opal cannot be destroyed by brute force. A single touch triggers a massive explosion. That's exactly what happened. The attempt nearly wiped out the entire kingdom. Many people died. Queen didn't survive. Edmund himself fell ill, consumed by guilt and the consequences of his mistake. Faced with that devastation, he made another extreme decision. He evacuated the kingdom. He sent his people away. He dismissed the soldiers. He even sent away his own son, who was still just a baby. That explains why Flynn doesn't remember anything about his real childhood. Edmund believed keeping his son far away was the only way to protect him from the curse of that legacy. He remained alone in the kingdom, guarding the Moonstone while sending loyal soldiers to preserve the secret. He even used a raven to keep watch over Flynn from afar. The king knew his son had become a thief. The wanted posters made that clear. But intervening would have meant exposing the truth. And here's the most important detail: the only force capable of neutralizing the Moonstone is the energy of the Sundrop. In other words, Rapunzel. See how destiny connects them? It's not just romance. It's cosmic balance, life and destruction meeting each other. Flynn wasn't just an ambitious thief chasing wealth and recognition. He was the rightful prince of a kingdom whose mission was to protect the world from total destruction. Everything he was searching for, importance, legacy, purpose, was already part of who he was. When he discovers this in the final season of the series, he doesn't accept it right away. Growing up abandoned left scars. It takes time before he calls Edmund father and understands that the separation was a desperate attempt at protection. Now imagine this alternate universe where Rapunzel's hair is never cut. Without her liberation, the Sundrop remains under Gothel's control. Without Rapunzel and Corona, no one can stop the expansion of the Moonstone. The black spikes would continue to grow, spreading across territories, destroying structures, turning entire regions uninhabitable. Even if Flynn survived and learned the truth about his origin, he wouldn't be able to neutralize the opal alone. He could try to find Rapunzel, warn the king and queen of Corona, organize an alliance, but without the active power of the Sundrop free in the world, destruction would keep advancing. And here's the crucial point: the Moonstone isn't a local threat, it's a global one. The more time passes, the greater its expansion. In this scenario, Rapunzel's imprisonment wouldn't just cause personal heartbreak, it would create universal imbalance. Corona would lose its princess. The Dark Kingdom would remain burdened by the curse of the opal. And the only force capable of restoring balance would be locked away in a distant tower. So without that cut, it wouldn't just be a sad ending. It would be the beginning of a silent collapse, where love, destiny, and cosmic balance fail to meet, and the world pays the price. If you enjoyed this theory, make sure to leave a like. It really helps the channel keep bringing deep dives like this. And don't leave just yet. Click the video that's showing up on your end screen and keep this journey going with us.